For over 300 years, they were the only armed military force allowed to be permanently stationed within the heart of Rome. This proximity to the seat of government transformed them from a group of elite protectors into a political entity that could, and often did, overthrow the very man they were sworn to protect. This is the Praetorian Guard. Before we get started today, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out and gets the show out there. Before the rise of the emperors, Roman generals often surrounded themselves with cohors praetoria, a small group of elite soldiers chosen for their loyalty. However, these were temporary units that disbanded after a campaign. When Augustus became Rome's first emperor, he recognized that his survival depended on a permanent professional bodyguard. He established 9 cohorts of 500 to 1,000 men each. In a careful political move, he stationed only 3 cohorts within the city limits and kept them in civilian dress to avoid the appearance of a military occupation. The remaining cohorts were spread throughout neighboring Italian towns and villages. The Roman state ensured the loyalty of the guard through extreme favoritism. The disparity between Praetorian and regular legionary was vast. Augustus set their pay at 3 times that of a standard soldier. By the time of the later emperors, the gap grew even wider. Upon completion of their 16-year service, as opposed to 20 to 25 for others, they received a massive cash bounty and high-status land grants. While they used standard Roman weapons like the gladius and pilum, their armor was often more decorative and made of higher quality materials for ceremonial duties. For the first few decades, the Guard remained relatively quiet. This changed under Tiberius and his ambitious prefect Sejanus. Sejanus convinced the emperor that having the Guard scattered was inefficient and dangerous. He oversaw the construction of the Castra Praetoria, a massive fortified barracks on the Viminal Hill. This move brought all 9 cohorts together behind high walls. It effectively turned the Guard into a state within a state. From this fortress, the soldiers could see the entire city, and the city could see them, a constant looming reminder of who actually held physical power in Rome. The Guard eventually realized that because they controlled the palace, they controlled the succession. If the emperor was viewed as anti-military or failed to pay large enough domitives, his life was in danger. When Emperor Caligula's erratic behavior and insults towards the Guard became intolerable, a group of officers led by Cassius Carrera assassinated him. During the chaos, soldiers looting the palace found Caligula's uncle Claudius cowering behind a set of curtains. Instead of killing him, they carried him to their camp and proclaimed him emperor. The Senate, though wishing to restore the Republic, was forced to accept the Guard's choice. The most scandalous moment in the Guard's history occurred in 193 AD, after the soldiers murdered the strict Emperor Pertinax. They held an auction for the Roman Empire. 2 wealthy men stood outside the camp and shouted bids, promising the soldiers higher and higher amounts of money. Didius Julianus won by promising 25,000 sesterces per man. This event was so shameful that it triggered a civil war, as the foreign legions refused to recognize a bought emperor. The command of the Guard, the Praetorian prefect, often became the most powerful man in Rome after the emperor. Because they managed the emperor's schedule and the flow of information, they acted as gatekeeper. They served as chief judges in the Roman legal system. They controlled the Frumentari, a group of soldiers who acted as secret police and intelligence network. Ambitious prefects such as Sejanus and Macrinus used their position to eliminate rivals, and in Macrinus's case, eventually seized the throne for himself. By the 4th century, the Guard had become more a liability than an asset. During the civil wars of the Tetrarchy, the Guard threw their support behind Maxentius, who held Rome. In 312 AD, the rival Emperor Constantine the Great marched on the city. At the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, Constantine's veterans crushed the Praetorian cohorts. Seeing that the Guard was a perpetual source of assassination and revolt, Constantine finally took the steps that his predecessors feared to take. He abolished the Guard forever. He destroyed the walls of the Castra Praetoria facing the city so it could never be used as a fortress again. The history of the Praetorian Guard served as a primary example of Praetorianism, the tendency for the military to intervene in the political life of a nation. While they were created to bring stability to a new empire, their immense privilege and isolation from the frontier made them a destabilizing force that ultimately contributed to the internal decay of the Roman state.